promote the Ward 1 council member? All right, I'm calling to order the April 23, 2026 work session for the town of Cheverly. I am present. I'm the mayor, Micah Watson. The acting town administrator, Dave Morris, is present. The town attorney, Jason DeLoach, is present. The town clerk, the director of public works, the deputy director of public works, the deputy police chief is also present. I will now call the roll for the elected council members. Is the council member from Ward 1 online?
Present.
Ward 2?
Present.
Ward 3?
Present.
Ward 4?
Present.
Ward 5, are you online? I see you. All right, we're going to mark Councilmember Garces as present. Ward 6.
Present.
All right, all 7 elected officials of the town of Cheverly are present. A quorum is present sufficient to conduct business, and the first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, council, the next order of business, item 3, is the approval of the agenda. We have at least one item to remove from the agenda, and that is item 4, as the town administrator would like additional time to collect documents regarding the grant request. Council, are there any other changes to the agenda that you would like to discuss? Is it the will of the council to leave item 7 on the agenda and discuss the GIC MOU? Okay. Hearing no interest in changing that, I don't see any, I'm not aware of any other changes that are necessary. Is there a motion from the council to approve the agenda with the removal of item 4?
Were you interested in setting any time limits for any of these?
Yes, we could certainly do that. What would you propose?
I think 7, 8, and 9 are the most likely to be protracted.
Okay. Shall we? 25 minutes each? 20 seems short, 30 seems long. What do you think?
I mean, ultimately, the mayor's discretion.
How about 25? That'll be an odd number to keep track of. Okay, is there a motion to approve the agenda as printed with the removal of item 4 and the imposition of 25-minute time limits on items old 7, old 8, and old 9?
Motion to approve the agenda?
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by the vice mayor and seconded by Councilmember Tansey. Is there any discussion by the council members on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The agenda is approved, and that takes us directly to item 5 on the printed agenda, the naming of the 5701 Landover Road Park. Council, this is the piece of land that has been lovingly restored by CNPP and a host of other volunteers as well as town staff over the past, I guess, 2 years. It's located at the intersections of Newton and 57th and Cheverly Avenue and 57th. There has been interest in the community in choosing a name for the park. I would suggest that we discuss the idea tonight, and if we seem to have consensus, to put the name on the May 14 town meeting agenda for a formal adoption. Councilmember Wade, would you like to kick off the discussion? Okay, I don't hear him. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on the?
I'm having trouble with my mic. If someone else speak to it, hopefully I can. I'm like 2 minutes away, but there's something wrong with my microphone.
All
Can
right.
barely hear you.
Okay, we will wait. Okay. Would you like to come back to this item? Shall we just shuffle and go directly to the charter amendment then?
Yeah, because I know he has some distinct ideas about that.
If there's no objection, I will simply proceed to item 6, and then we will backtrack. Item 6 on the agenda is the language for the charter amendment on candidate prohibition. Again, this is not the introduction of a charter amendment, and this is not the resolution that would do so. We will not be doing that in a work session. If we are all generally happy with the language, we will ask the attorney to get all that ready, possibly for May 14th, or possibly June 11th, or some other work session for a first reader of the charter amendment resolution. Council, this is designed by the Board of Election Supervisors to prohibit a candidate in an election, and again, it won't be relevant until 2031 when we once again have the mayor and council up at the same time, prohibit an individual resident of the town from running for 2 offices. I'm going to turn now to the Board of Election Supervisors. I see at least one of them online and invite them to offer any introductory comments because this is a problem that they identified. Anne Claire, are you able to unmute?
Hi, this is Robin.
Hi, Robin. Go ahead.
Hi. I have not seen, or perhaps I have missed it, if there was a new version of the amendment rolled out. Just to clarify, we did not craft this amendment. We just have, we're just trying to get it addressed that this loophole was revealed last election. So if there is a new draft of the language, can it be
Okay.
sent to me?
Yeah, I can, I'll tell you, well, we can certainly provide it. I'll just read it right now because it's only 3 sentences.
Perfect. Thank you.
So this would be a new paragraph B under 18.2 for candidates. Previously, there had only been an A, sections 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The new section B, all new language in the charter would read, under no circumstances may an individual be a candidate for mayor and council member in the same election. An application for candidacy for mayor and council member for an official candidate in the same election shall be null and void. Likewise, any application for write-in candidacy for an individual for the office of mayor and council member in the same election shall be null and void for both offices.
Thank you for that. It seems very similar to what it was before. So I guess I don't really have anything else to add. This seems sufficient.
Thank you. Anne Claire, anything to add as a fellow supervisor?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Deloach, do you have anything to add?
Do not, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Council, anything to add? Mr. Tanzi?
So the last sentence says it will be null and void for both offices. Would the same apply if you are an official candidate? And is that the intention? That if you submit for both, that means you're running for neither?
Correct.
Yeah, so with the write-in candidacy, because when you have a write-in candidate, they're not on the ballot. All right. So they haven't gone through the normal process of getting on the ballot. All right. So if someone goes through the process of being placed on the ballot, and then there is a write-in campaign by someone other than that person, okay, then it's not fair to neutralize or nullify the ballot, okay? When you have someone who has a write-in campaign, that's different, okay? Because they could be proffering or suggesting or moving forward with that write-in campaign on their own for both offices. Do you understand the distinction?
I understand the distinction. I guess the way I read this is if I say I'm going to run for council and I submit my stuff, and then I say, actually, I'm going to run for mayor, and I submit my stuff, I'm now no longer running for either. So
Well-
it seems to me the way this is written is that if I put my paperwork in as an official candidate for both, I can no longer run for either.
That's captured in the first sentence.
Yes. So
Okay, under no circumstances. Yeah.
I think I understand the write-in one. I just want to make sure that that's what we intended to say, that someone can't change their mind even if it's before the things get printed. Like if I say I'm running for council and then I decide, oh, actually, the mayor just resigned, I'm going to run for mayor, that we are removing the ability for someone to do that before, well, at any point. If I've already submitted the first, I can no longer retract that, it seems, and say, now I'm running for the second.
I don't think that was the intent of the original amendment, but if that is something that you want the council to consider, I think they're hearing that for the first time.
I think that's how it's written, is my point. The way I read this was you can't change your mind. You can't say, actually, I'm not going to run for mayor, I'm just going to run for council. And I don't know that that's what we want to put in. So I wanted to make sure, as it's written, is that what would happen? And then as mayor and council, we can discuss, is that what we want?
John, go ahead, and then we'll go to Nicole.
If it were before the deadline, that opportunity should be afforded you. So, yeah, so if that opportunity arose and you decided you changed your mind, but, so I understand what David
Yeah.
is asking.
I think whatever this says, I think my policy preference is to do what John's saying, that you can erase the first application with the second application as long as it's before the filing deadline. I don't think, the second point I'll make, and Mr. Deloach can correct me on this, but I don't think we can ever legislate someone getting elected as an unofficial write-in candidate, right? I mean, we're talking, I think the distinction is between a filed candidate who's on the ballot and an official write-in candidate. I don't know that we can ever, I'm not sure how you legislate about someone getting elected as an unofficial, uncertified write-in candidate. And I don't know that we've entertained all three categories. Vice Mayor?
I'm remembering back, we last looked at this at the February work session, and I think some of the question was about the final phrase for both offices, because I think you can read it a number of ways. And the way that I think it's meant to read here is that any application for write-in candidacy for an individual shall be null and void for the office of mayor or for the office of council member in the same election. So either one that you do would be null and void, but maybe that's wrong. I don't know. Mr. Deloach?
What if you do both offices, though? What if you have a write-in campaign for mayor and a write-in campaign for council member?
Well, you can have a campaign for whatever you want. You just can't be an official write-in candidate.
Are you asking, Mr. Deloach, what do we do if you win both?
Well, the question is, we don't want anyone to be able to do both. You don't want to be able to say, okay, I'm going to file for mayor. Oh, and then if I don't win the mayor, I'll still have an opportunity to win as council member.
Yeah, so I
Is
think
that-
we're saying in no circumstance do we want you to be an official candidate for both, either an official write-in candidate or an official, pre-deadline on the ballot
Yeah.
candidate.
Ballot candidate.
I think the mayor is adding a third category of we can't actually stop someone from just going around saying, vote for me for mayor because, for whatever reason. And so I don't know how we resolve that issue. It might be a separate issue, but I think we can, at the very least, say you can't be you can't be either an official candidate on the ballot for two different offices or an official write-in candidate for two different offices.
Or
And,
one of
and
each.
one of each, exactly, yes, sorry, so that they are from the same pool, right? You can only have a single ballot placement or official write-in placement. And I think that's what we are saying we want to find the right wording for.
Is anyone, I mean, I think I agree with David. I think we're sidestepping the issue of whether your unofficial, uncertified write-in candidacy got you elected to something, and whether that nullifies your election to the office for which you were a certified candidate. I think we're sidestepping that issue.
Yeah.
I'm okay sidestepping it because this plugs 90% of the hole. That is a different hole, slightly different hole. We could plug that or we could not plug that. I think the policy, at any rate, let's hear from the public, and then we will clarify our policy direction for the attorney, and then see if we might be ready for May or whether we wait.
I had one more administrative question.
Would you like to ask your administrative question?
Yeah, so the other paragraph that's highlighted, is that new language?
Well, it's all new language. It's a resolution.
Okay, so obviously, Section B was different from what we saw in February, and is this other section in highlight also new from February?
Yes, I mean, it's been clarified, but
Okay.
again, it's not important because it's not codified.
Okay. Thank you.
It's just, it's, right, it's
I-
expressing our intent.
I will say the first highlighted piece is clear, very clear.
Yeah.
So that language is clear, and we just need to have Part B be a clear reflection of that intent.
All right, please approach the microphone or raise your hand online, and you have 3 minutes. Name and word.
Mayor and Council, Sean Patrick McGuire, Ward 2. I have a question, I have like 5 or 6 questions. What was it the previous election? Everything applied now, but when was it retroactive, let's say a year ago, whatever council or mayoral election? Does the president, I guess, question does what is being debated now, was it being fixed? Does the whole, this hole, I guess you want to call it, a gap, I brought it to the attention, so you're welcome. Anyway, does it affect anyone applying as a certified candidate for a position?
Yes.
What we're debating? Okay. Okay, that's enough. And, okay, so clarity from the, for like 30 seconds from the attorney that everything was not fixed, but it doesn't matter? Is that the
The
opinion?
attorney's not going to respond to public input.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Oh, and change the subject a little bit. I noticed another municipality had a budget in paper, not online, whatever, and it's conclusive to the treasurer of the town of Cheverly or whatever, and the administrator. Same figures, everyone agrees. Can I get a copy of the budget, 2026 budget, in writing, a short period of time before June 30th? Because I got a copy of Como Matter budget right here. They have $1 million surplus. Yes, they're smaller, but I'm trying to see if Cheverly can walk back the mistakes of overspending and still expand without beyond their purse or their wallet. So how do you put the genie back in the bottle? That's why I was attending meetings there, for example. Over $1 million surplus gets my attention, but their services are less than Cheverly. Be agreed. But I appreciate in writing the 2026 budget of the town of Cheverly. Oh, now, the green space. Do I still have a minute? No.
Well, that wouldn't be germane to the topic at hand.
Well, I'd appreciate a copy of the budget if you could.
That's also not germane to the topic at hand. This topic is the charter amendment for the election.
Well, I guess I brought it to your attention, patched or whatever. Give me my 30 seconds, thank you. Public input, thank you. I do have public input right. 3 minutes, you just ate into my minutes. Now, the infrastructure, the green infrastructure, okay. Is it, I have a question of the 2026 budget. I do remember the auditor on March 2025, I guess is early March, that mentioned a surplus unrestricted account of $6,824,000. I was alarmed to see eventually by January 1st, 2026, of a $5,142,000 budget officially. And so I cite that as irregularities that need to be without a FICA, what is it?
Time.
A FOIA request.
All right, thank you.
You ate my 30 seconds, thank you.
Is there, okay, I'm going to turn to Robin and Ann Claire and ask you if your hands are up for this segment.
Yes.
Go ahead, Robin, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Just wanted a couple points of clarification. One is that in section A of this C18.2, it is specified that, and that section is for candidates who file before the deadline, that they cannot run for more than one office in any given election. So that scenario is already covered by that language. It's in number 5 section, number 5 under section A. So really, we're just looking to plug the loophole of someone who is already on the ballot and then filing to be a certified write-in candidate.
That's a good point.
So, I remember at the last work session at which this was discussed, there was a desire expressed to simplify it down. And if that is one way that you want to, remove some of the language, that is possibly one way to simplify it down. We're really looking for plugging that one scenario. The side issue that was brought up about concern about what happens if someone is not a certified write-in candidate and they are on the ballot, but they mount a write-in campaign, and what happens if they win, et cetera. The Board of Election Supervisors was recently reading up on some language in the Maryland state law where only certified write-in candidates can be considered to be tallied in the final results. So that is something we are pondering as, that would supersede our code. And I believe Ann Claire has her hand raised to probably speak to that point because she is the one who has researched this topic. So just wanted to bring that up as some things to consider. Thank you.
Thank you. Ann Claire, would you like to speak now?
Yeah, I wanted to speak to that point that last year when we were discussing uncertified write-ins, I saw in the Maryland election law that there it is already covered. And we assume that it then also counts for us that if somebody is not certified write-in, they won't officially be tallied. We'll still count everything, but it won't be officially tallied and they cannot officially win the election.
All right, thank you for that. I don't think that the Maryland law applies to municipalities, and certainly in the town of Cheverly, it is well understood that a candidate can run as an unofficial, that someone can be elected to an office by write-in votes even if they weren't certified prior to the Friday. So I think it can still happen here. But thank you for that. That may be something else we want to investigate because it's certainly, I don't think, been common practice to apply that provision of the Maryland law to Cheverly or possibly any of the other 161, but I don't know that for sure. Is there other public input? Your name, ward, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor. Leila Riazi, Ward 1. On the first page, the highlighted whereas, I would suggest one to just, there are errors of capitalization, just to have consistency throughout. The other thing is that whereas, in my opinion, should end There should be no and the paragraph below should be removed. It's repetitive. So that I'm making that suggestion. It's arranged differently, but it's the same content. Then what we're talking about on the next page, the highlighted section, if what we're trying to do that's listed in 5 is to follow through that no person may be a candidate for more than one office at any one election, and then the idea of a certified write-in candidate, I think it would be very helpful to say how that would be handled. For example, not to make more work on the Board of Election Supervisors, but that prior to the deadline, that the party would be notified and would have the opportunity up until the deadline to choose one office, and if not, both would be void. So that then is giving the opportunity to make that decision that, as I understood, Councilmember Tansey was bringing forward in that, and same for the write-in candidate, the official or however write-in candidate. So that would be something that would, because right now it says no may run, but it doesn't tell you what happens. So here we say that they're both null and void, but there is the opportunity to, if somebody has changed their mind, to have that notification and that response to that notification. Thank you very much. Oh, and one more thing I would add, I don't know who's doing the research on this, but I would formally ask our town attorneys to do the research across municipalities on this. And the first place that I would go, quite honestly, would be the Maryland Municipal League for assistance on this. That's what they're there for. And they do a very good job of guiding for these issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone, any further public input on this language? Seeing none, council, I think we are clear that we do want to proceed with a Section B, and that Section B should, to the extent necessary, given 5, clarify that you cannot be certified as a write-in candidate if you're already on the ballot for an office. And I think I heard a consensus that you ought to be able to replace your previous, or withdraw, or whatever the verb is, your previous application with a new application, provided it's done by 5 o'clock on the 45-day deadline. Is that?
They will be notified as well, right? Is that, I believe that's what you said as well.
Notified?
So if they put it in, the application in,
Yeah.
the town will notify, hey, you have put both in, will notify you that you have. that's
Right,
legal.
that you would be notified that you have to make a decision affirmatively in writing to the BOES by 5 o'clock on that 45-day limit, which is generally a Friday for us, but if everyone's good with that, Mr. Deloach, I'm going to ask you to take that back and verify that this is good to go. And if we are in good shape, then we will put it on a town meeting agenda for first reader. I don't feel like this needs to be done before the budget, so we can probably make it July or August first reader. I'm just seeing some head nods, so I think that concludes this item. Let us now go back to item 5 on the printed agenda, 5701 Landover Road, and Mr. Wade, you have the floor.
Thank you again, Mayor. I do apologize for running a little late. Actually, my day job, I was doing my community engagement, which I always do, so. But thank you regarding allowing us to have this on the floor. As we know, that we have the property at one point was a dumping ground that now, thanks to our community partners as well as volunteers, that it's now a amazing park, especially on, again, that side of Ward 1. There's also a side that I live on as well. We are wanting to make sure that the opportunity is there to name the particular part. I would like to discuss. I would like to discuss the naming of the park to the former chief, who was, from my understanding, the first African-American chief who actually lived on that side as well. His name was Mr. Gilbert Jones. And he came to my recollection 2 years ago, actually, where he passed away 2 years ago in June of 2023. So we are coming up on the 2-year anniversary, ironically, of his passing. Again, shows of his time of leadership. I believe from the history that I was provided that he was an asset to the town, but most importantly, he was a resident of Cheverly as well, not just being the chief, making history on that aspect. So I think it would really commend not only his term here as an official employee and chief of public safety, but also a resident that lived a couple blocks from there as well. So again, Mr. Gilbert Jones would be my suggestion, and moving forward with naming the park over there at 5701. I yield back.
Council, any other ideas you would like to throw into the hopper? Vice Mayor?
Not an idea so much as a question. I don't think I was on council when we formally named this building. When we're naming things, who does the research and what depth of research do they do into the people we are naming for? Because I feel like there has been a history here and everywhere of naming things for people without sort of digging a little deeper and then finding out later that they definitely should not have had something named after them. I'm not saying that that's the case here. I'm just saying generally, how does that get avoided and who does that?
So I will say it's probably done with varying depth. We will certainly do, we'll ask, we're in no rush here, so I will ask the town administrator to do a deep dive on the question and find out what he can find out on Chief Jones. I think, okay, I think I will just add one other point in the debate. We're naming a lot of stuff after dudes. We haven't named anything after a woman. So probably need to find a woman who's been important to Cheverly history to name something after. Because we got a pavilion, and then we got this other thing, and then we got this building, and now we got this park, and they're all men. Mr. Wade.
Yeah, I know we do have a new initiative with the Cheverly Historic, got the official name. That might be a good source, and we have an amazing source standing before us that might know as well. But I definitely, can you speak to the Vice Mayor said she wasn't on council? What was the process with the naming of the other buildings? How did that work?
Yeah, I think it's true that we didn't have a process. Some names were thrown out, and there was consensus around it. Councilmember Frye, did you want to say something?
No, I agree. I think it was similar to what's happening now, but it would be good for us to have some sort of process, because just as a reminder, in defense of support of Black Lives, it does say that the town of Cheverly will review the names of monuments, trails, buildings, structures, and entities to ensure the names of white supremacists are removed and aforementioned are renamed, and it is further. So it's always good to have a process, so that way if people are like, how did that happen? They know that we all follow, and we follow the same one, to the best of our ability.
Right, and we don't have, as some larger communities have, like a resident panel of experts that do this sort of thing. All right, we're very open, I think, to other ideas besides Chief Jones, but let us go to the public then, since council seems satisfied. Oh, go ahead.
I actually like the idea that Councilmember Wade has put forward because, again, he did live there, and also was our first Black, like a first, which is, something that is as a trailblazer. But always good to do our due diligence so that becomes just our standard process.
Yeah, I agree. Name your ward, and you have 3 minutes.
Julia Mosley, Ward 2. I appreciate the mayor's concern, but in this case, I have to say that I would certainly recommend that this park be named after a very open and public discussion But I think Chief Jones was instrumental in many things in this town that were good. And I think it'd be wonderful to name this park after him, particularly since he lived in that section of Ward 2 and served this town for many years, both in Public Works as well as the police chief. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Whoever we name the park for, we will also have a public process for making the plaque that we will hopefully put on the fence or on a post. Is there any other public input? Oh, yes, there is an individual online, Carmen Jones. Are you able to speak?
Yes, I am able to speak. Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, this is in regard to the item on the agenda for Cheverly Gives Back in regard to the grant request that was removed for the agenda.
Yes.
I wanted to follow up with you all and just say, respectfully ask for the council for consideration, being that you were told that it was submitted incompletely and incomplete. And we were not previously informed about the documentation, that the documentation was missing. And that is on us. We take full responsibility for that. But however, we're here this evening virtually to provide you with the grant application that you have in front of you, showing the fully itemized budget reflecting a total cost of $1,900. This is a real event that we've already, started to get the wheels turning on. We have confirmed talent, confirmed AV specialists, and a videographer. We're not asking for special treatment. We're just asking for the opportunity to serve, for guidance, the documentation, to make sure that, we can get the grant. We are committed to the community, and this event is for, the enrichment of the Cheverly community, and we would love the chance to prove that. So, Mayor and other council members were asking if we can have reconsideration for the grants.
Okay, we're in the middle of a different agenda item currently. We will continue to check with the town administrator to see if it is possible to move forward. I don't expect we will be able to move forward with the grant request at this work session.
Okay.
Councilmember Fry.
So the grant request looked like the event was for June.
Right.
Yeah.
But Carmen, just so that you know, typically at the work session, we don't vote on it, we discuss it, and then it's at the town meeting that we would approve it either
Correct.
way. So I think what it was that the town administrator, because he is out of town right now, wasn't able to look at it. So I imagine we could get a recommendation at the town meeting, potentially. So
Yeah, I
it's
don't
not
think.
2 weeks from now.
Exactly.
So within the next 2 weeks, which is the normal timeline we would normally follow.
Yeah, that's a very good point. We would not have approved it tonight anyway.
So tonight would have
perhaps
just been
we
a
can.
discussion, so.
Right. So perhaps we, given the desire to do a summer event, perhaps
Yeah.
we can speed up our process so that on May 14th, we do it all at the May 14 town meeting.
Oh, that would be appreciated.
I hope it's about the name.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
I'd be in favor of, instead of having it on the consent agenda, having it just as its own item at the town meeting in 2 weeks.
Okay.
And then we can discuss and vote.
Let's do that.
3 weeks?
Acting Town Administrator, let's do that.
Yes, sir.
Or maybe perhaps the clerk is taking it for the agenda. All right, are we back on the names?
Okay, thank you all. I appreciate your time, and I will talk to you guys in 3 weeks.
Great, thank you for your
Thank you.
patience.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other comments on the other, on the recommendation? We have one recommendation on the floor, which is for Chief Jones. You have your name and ward, and you have 3 minutes.
Okay. Can I do like a minute for them? Okay. Sean Patrick McGuire, Ward 2, across the street from you, Mayor. Okay, NASA is naming a telescope, first name Nancy, I don't know her last name. I'll let someone verify. Maybe that could be up. She's a chick, so not a dude. And as a naming for the park, maybe it should be someone neutral. You know, it's like, here's where he was I understand he was here and he's passed. I apologize to say it like that. But let's just say, how about someone who wasn't a Cheverly resident? It's like a neutral party. It's like you're putting a park. It's not like it's a neutral party. It's not someone, he was here and so here's his park. So maybe it's less ego. That's what I'm trying to say. Not making emotion out of it. So a neutral party, a female, naming a NASA telescope that will soon be launched by first name Nancy. So a suggestion as a woman. So we're still on names. How about her? And I do not know her last name, but let your crack student research find out. But you're going to launch a satellite or a telescope. Naming, so that's important. So she also has a park, or maybe not. So in her name, I guess I'll leave it at that. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Council, what is your preference for the time? Did you have your hand up?
I was just also going to mention that former council member Marverly Nettle Simpson is a woman and is from that ward and was the first black woman council member from Ward 1.
Yes.
Anyway, if we're looking for women, just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you. What is your preference for timeline? I mean, we have a lot going on. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would hope that at least by summertime, so we can make sure that it's mid to end summertime, so it's good light outside. And I don't know what the process is of actually getting a plaque or whatever for that as well. But I wouldn't want it to go into the wintertime.
Yeah.
Maximize the.
So let us plan to vote this summer, and then the town administrator will have to advise on how quickly he can organize a dedication, including a plaque, but presumably 90 days or so. So maybe we'd be in the fall. Let us tentatively put this on the July town meeting. How about that? For approval.
Well, we have May, June, we have 2 town meetings coming up. So you literally will have, doesn't take that much research to find out exactly if there's any issues or any nominations for that matter, further nominations.
It's up to you.
If you July, then you say another 90 days after that, August, September, possible October.
No, I don't know. I just don't know how long it takes to order a plaque. That's all I'm saying. And like plan a dedication ceremony. If you guys want to vote in May or June, I'm just saying we got kind of a lot of other stuff to do those months.
There's no 90 days we're not, whatever we vote on, it doesn't have to wait 90 days. Though,
It doesn't. We just need a plaque and a ceremony. And, right, that doesn't happen in a week.
I suggest June.
Okay, we will be approving the budget and then naming the park. Okay, June work session then, please. All right, that takes us to item 7, the GIC discussion, for which we instituted a 25-minute time limit. I'm going to turn to others on the council who can introduce the MOU, the working draft of the MOU. Mr. Tanzi, is that you?
That's me. So the GIC work group has been meeting for several months now, since the fall, so about 6 months now. And we first met to discuss what the town's needs were and what models might work for reestablishing a positive, productive working relationship with the Cheverly Green Infrastructure Committee. One of the models that came up pretty early was that, I hate saying this out loud because of how it's pronounced, but Havre de Grace has a model where they have a local nonprofit that serves as their green team. It is not an official advisory body in the traditional sense in Cheverly, but that they have MOUs establishing a working relationship and specific scopes of work. So I started reading those, and we started discussing those as a work group, and we decided to move in that direction, mostly because we learned that in 2023, I believe, the Cheverly Green Infrastructure Committee did incorporate as a 501c3 nonprofit, which meant simply restoring its previous status as a town advisory body created entirely by mayor and council did not seem tenable. So what came of that is the working draft of a memorandum of understanding that's before you. The goal was to set up a clear scope of what the relationship governs, to make it clear that the committee, the Green Infrastructure Committee, would develop and submit recommendations to the mayor and council, but that final decisions were with the mayor and council, that they would be treated like an advisory group, meaning having a liaison and a time to on the agenda to give updates like with the other advisory groups. But we also recognize that they are an independent nonprofit organization, and that that raises some questions that I'll speak to in a moment. One of the ways we try to deal with that, to make it clear that they do not speak for the town, is to include in the MOU a signature that they would use, that they would sign communications with the Cheverly Green Infrastructure Committee, a Maryland 501c3 nonprofit, with some other details that we included, including their website. But the goal there is that it makes it clear that when they speak to third parties, that they are not speaking for the town. If you look at Section 7, Conflict Awareness and Legal Matters, we were able to agree on some of the language, but this is when we realized we would need time with the town's council, legal counsel, to talk about how we word this. I'll speak to that in a little bit. It's in the addendum. Maintaining the relationship is both to come up with a sort of conflict resolution ladder, that things start with the liaison and then a meeting face to face, but it maintains the option as a last resort that either party may terminate this MOU. And then we added a term in review, just sort of as a matter of course. The three things that are unresolved, I tried to address in a neutral way in the notes upon submission on the last page. Page 21 is printed. The first is that we had an earlier draft discussing the requirement to resign if a committee member became party to legislation involving the town or a matter of which the town has a direct legal interest. And the second established that conduct by a committee or its members creating a conflict with the town's legal interest could be considered grounds for termination of the MOU. The reason this was left out of the draft is that it wasn't clear if it was enforceable, if the language like direct legal interest was legally meaningful, and whether or not us requiring this in the MOU is the proper placement, or if it would be a requirement in the bylaws. But then if that was a requirement, where would that be addressed? So some of the discussion today, I'm sure, will be broad, but some will be about whether or not that is an appropriate requirement, and if it is, where it would go, though eventually that will come down to a discussion with the lawyers. The second topic was recommendations to external bodies. So we said that submissions to external government bodies require the mayor and council authorization. So the question here was, do we submit the Green Infrastructure Committee's recommendations with our submission. The discussion in the group was that that was a prior practice, that whenever the town submitted something to an external government body, that we also included the planning board recommendations and the Green Infrastructure Committee recommendations. So I just wrote that as a note. I don't know the history well enough to speak to it, but that is a topic to settle. And then finally is what committee communications with the public will be following town decisions. So we said that the committee may continue to advise the mayor and council following a town decision, but they had proposed other language allowing them to continue to communicate with and educate the public. The unresolved question is how much the committee and its members have limited their ability to discuss disagreements with the town decisions by entering into this MOU. By signing, the committee is affirming that it functions as an advisory body. All parties agree that the town decision does not silence the committee or prevent it from continuing to discuss matters within its mission. The harder question is where this line falls between that and conduct inconsistent with an advisory role and the constructive relationship this MOU is intended to establish. So we did not come up with language for that. The example that we used, I think, purposefully ridiculous example was if there was some 200-year-old tree at the end of a street that the town wanted to extend, and we heard advice from the committee and then continued to propose extending the road, is their only option to continue to speak during town meetings to us, or can they, or do we have the ability to limit their members from engaging with the public saying, save this tree? So that is another matter that might be solved by town council, meaning the lawyers, because it might be that that's an impossible thing to require or enforce in an MOU. But the Section 8 escalation and right to terminate still exists if that proved to become, no longer a constructive relationship.
Thank you all thank you and all the members of the group for a lot of work on this. That's fantastic. Are there other members of the council that want to speak before we go to the public? All right, let us dive into the public input then. Is there any public input on the working draft of the MOU?
Oh, Sean McGuire, Ward 2. What do you mean terminate? You mean, not kill them, but you mean they're no longer can serve in that position as a 501, whatever, nonprofit, not. Can you go back quickly? What is the 509 CD, whatever that does, versus the 501 versus whatever, other nonprofit? Can you explain? And what influence that will have on the decision? And terminate meaning you're no longer allowed to be in that committee. You can no longer, if you disagree, it's your opinion, but if you say something, it could be libel, I guess, against the town. So terminate has an interesting definition of terminate. So thank you for your time, David. Tanley?
Thank you. Okay, is there any other public input on the draft MOU? Working draft?
Good evening. First, thank you to David, John, and Charlie. It's actually been a wonderful working relationship, and speaking for myself, I've enjoyed and we've gotten to know each other better. And my ultimate goal, honestly, with this MOU is that it ends up not being needed. That 5 years from now, we have to remind ourselves to revisit it. What I appreciate is the work done to restore a positive working relationship. To address a couple of the things that have been brought forward, I'll just remind everyone that sometimes we try to limit things. We try to legislate how to be a good neighbor. It's very, very difficult to do that, and it often gets in the way of the democratic process. So just to keep in mind, if the idea is that a committee, be that acting in an advisory body or as any other committee in town, is restricted from continuing to inform and engage the public, that circumvents, that actually strangles the democratic process. And I think everybody sitting up at the dais is able to own the decisions they make and able to absorb the fact that community will continue to engage. So just to bring that forward. We have explored language within our bylaws and really feel that that's the best place for that language to lie, because it actually, as an independent body, it's up to the Green Infrastructure Committee to set out how its members behave, and how what standards we have. And then the same as any other organization, those bylaws are submitted to the town, and for that to be in the MOU, to be submitted yearly. And if there's any variation or amendment to those bylaws, for there to be that notification so it can be reviewed. One of the things that I really appreciate is in Section 8, that the idea that that decisions are not made by imperial fiat, decisions are made by working together. The magic of the role of the liaison to be engaged and to serve as that conduit back and forth. And then also that decisions are made with the best of intent of sorting through and having the opportunity to explain. I'll close because I don't want to go over time. It's very important and very valuable for us to be able to have benefit of working with the town attorneys, with counsel on some of these things, because without our voices in the room, there's the opportunity for things to be misunderstood and to come to a conclusion that doesn't make sense for the MOU. So just reinforcing what Councilmember Tansey has brought forward in that regard. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Is there other public input on the working draft?
Julia Mosley, Ward 2. Just a couple of things. First of all, while it may seem like we've been working on this for months, we've really only had 3 meetings, I believe. So it's not like we've been meeting weekly. I think if we perhaps had had one more meeting, some of this might have been clarified before. It still has to go to the attorney before it comes back to the council. But I would also like to thank Councilmember Luke-Lohick, Councilmember Tansey, who was unfortunately stuck with a lot of the writing, Councilmember Garces, and of course our working group. Our goal is to get back to where we were a number of years ago, but have it clarified for the future, not just for our committee, but for, I believe, Councilmember Tansey brought up on numerous occasions that he wanted this generic enough that it could be used for other committees as well. Just a good framework. I think we'll get there. We may need another meeting before it goes to the attorney, but again, the meetings were productive, pleasant, informative on both sides, and really quite good. So thank you all.
That is great to hear. Thank you. Are there any comments from council? Did you have your hand up?
Yeah, are we done with?
I mean, we can pause.
No,
Or you wanna wait?
I
Oh,
was
okay.
just meaning to, after.
Mr.
everyone had
Smith,
that.
did you want to come up? And then if anybody else, please queue up for public comment. Your name, ward, and you have 3 minutes.
Yeah, Dan Smith in Ward 1. Just one small item here that I think in the matter of whether the recommendations go forward with the formal recommendation of the town, whether the documents from Green Infrastructure or Planning Board or others, whether they go forward, I would think that the town would want to send them forward. They're public documents, or in the public record in any case, but by sending them forward, it shows that this is a body of deliberation and recommendations that were evaluated at home by this council, and then arrived at this decision, and then we carry this forward and show. I think that puts the council actually in a stronger position. So the deliberative body then says, oh, we see, there's a range of opinion here, and here's where you landed. So we appreciate your deliberative thoroughness of this. And if you didn't send it forward, it's on the public record, well then any individual or others could submit that and say, this was a minority opinion, but we think it merits consideration. And I think that would have more weight and it kind of bogged the process down. So I think it would actually be in this interest of the body to show, bring forth the minority reports in that way.
Thank you for that. Is there other public input before we go back to the council? Yes, ma'am. Your name, your ward, and you have 3 minutes.
Sure, I don't need it. Sheila Salo, Ward 2. I just want to say thank you to all of the people who have been working with the working group, my colleagues and colleagues on the council, and we're very much looking forward to a further meeting and to meeting with the town attorneys to complete the job. So thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Council, okay, we were going to go to the Vice Mayor Briner and then John. Go ahead.
Two quick things. One is that I have concerns about residents working directly with the town attorney. I feel like that has not worked well for us in the past when that has happened, and attorneys are expensive, so I just want to make sure that we're really taking a look at that and thinking about it. But sort of more broadly, last year, I think it was last year, the council voted unanimously to adopt the advisory committee rules and guidelines. And so when we're talking about creating an MOU that would work for other committees and bodies, we already have a document that's been adopted that's meant to do a lot of this. It feels like this MOU covers a lot of that in terms of providing sort of access and platform to the Green Infrastructure Committee, but does not include, obviously, because of the nature of the group, the oversight that the town would have in the advisory committee policy. So it feels like it's got one sort of tine of the fork, but not the other. And so, yeah, I'm just wondering about, is this MOU meant to take the place of the advisory committee rules and guidelines? Like what is the goal there, and what are the what is the thinking there? Because it feels like there's an imbalance.
All right, thank you for that. Councilmember LeGlow.
Thank you. So I think that the meetings that we had, as to paraphrase JFK, was sort of the greatest assembly of talents since Jefferson dined alone. I mean, we had, 2 former mayors and the long-tenured chair of the GIC, and David and myself and Charlie, and we all brought something to the table, and we all worked very well together. And we sat there and we said, this is something we need, and this is something we want, and this is something we can give you, and this is something we have to do, and this is something we have to get, and this is something we can put here, and this is something we can take away. And at the end of the day, we came up with this document. And so when I went into this and I said, we need to move forward at the end of the day, and we need to rebuild, and we need to repair this relationship between the GIC and the town. That is the goal. That was always the goal. And whatever happened, happened. And we need to start from here and move forward. Whatever happened, happened, and we're going to start fresh and go forward from here. So whatever we approved in the past is in the past, And this document here that we all have agreed upon, and we will get the blessings of our lawyers, will get us to a new point A, and we will go forward from here.
Thank you. Oh, well, you're both repeats. Is there anyone new? No? You're good? Okay. Oh, go ahead, and then we'll go to David and then Nicole.
Yeah, thank you for everybody that was a part of this. I know this is very difficult. As mentioned before, just echoing what Councilmember LeGlowick mentioned, we do have to move forward with what we're doing. We know that the GIC is an asset to the town, and we do know that we do have guidelines that we have to move by, but looking forward to moving forward and working together to make Cheverly what it is. I yield back.
Thank you. Mr. Tanzi.
So, Vice Mayor, I appreciate your second point. Make sure I'm not misattributing that. Yes, second point. So the goal was not to replace them. So the first sentence in Section 5 is, for purposes of coordination with the town, the committee will be afforded the same privileges and commitments applicable to town advisory groups while remaining an independent nonprofit organization. So the goal, and maybe it was achieved and maybe it wasn't, but the goal was to say we are creating a relationship with a body, admittedly, that we did create, but is now a separate legal thing, that is like that of the other advisory groups. What Julia was speaking to earlier is I tried to make it very clear, I do not want to be creating, I want to create a unique relationship with the Cheverly Green Infrastructure Committee, but I do not want to create unique rules for the Cheverly Green Infrastructure Committee other than those made necessary by the fact that they are an independent legal body at this point. So someone brought up that the Cheverly Committee is not a regular, appointed body like Planning Board is. I don't know the history of that, and I'll admit now that I did not do any further research into that point. But the goal is that you end up with a relationship, something like that, where it's understood that they're going to work in this capacity. And then if that is no longer, I mean, that's why a lot of what we talked about was what happens when it doesn't work in that capacity, that we are not giving a permanent status, because that's what the planning board has, but it's because it's created entirely by us, we can rearrange it and reconstruct it if that's no longer a productive relationship. So we had to come up with some more language because they are, at this point, a separate legal entity. What do we do when it's no longer serving the town's interest, hypothetically?
Okay, we are short on time, but go ahead.
I just wanted to say, to answer Councilmember LeGlowick's point, I don't think I was bringing what's in the past back up. I think what I'm saying is, if this body has a set of rules and guidelines that have been approved and adopted, then we should hold to that. And I think we don't want to say what was agreed to by a previous council does not matter now, especially when a lot of this council was that council. Because then what are we doing up here but doing things that won't matter to the next group? And so for me, I just want to make sure that we're being clear about what are the policies that already exist, how are they informing whatever we're doing now, and where are the places where, rather than make something new, we go back to the policy that's in place and adjust it as needed. So that was the point I was making.
Councilmember Frye.
Thank you. To the Vice Mayor's point, policy and procedure is very important to me. The fact is that we do have a resolution that was passed. And to what Mr. Smith was saying, in that whatever we do here will be documented so that it creates history, and people can look back and see what was the intent, what happened, how did they get there, that kind of thing. So I do think that this MOU should include some of that history, for better or for worse. I think that it's important we remember what the history is, because we need to learn from those mistakes that we may have had. We also need to make sure that the positive things that have come from them stay with us too. And so I do want to make note of one thing, and it is that there is a lot of things written about the fact that this group, which was, I believe, on the October 13th, 2011 Cheverly Town Council meeting was established and appointed. It was also reiterated in a resolution in 2017 that this was, again, a Cheverly Town Council established town advisory body. I will say also later in just dealings with outside of the town, there was a letter written to the RDA from former Mayor Leila Riazi on June, circulated to council on June 7th, 2021, to be sent out on June 9th, 2021, that in fact, I will read it for you. It is imperative that any applicant express closely commit to working closely with the town of Cheverly, our advisory bodies, in parentheses, Cheverly Green Infrastructure Committee and Cheverly Planning Board. Similar language, again, January 9th, 2023, to the Clean Water Partnership, Sheila Salo. The Cheverly Green Infrastructure Committee acts as an advisory body to the Cheverly Mayor and Council. I'm not trying to rehash the past. I do think that we need to move forward. But I think that it was very clear that this body was an advisory body. We have never ever asked you not to act independently. What we want is your expert advice, which is independent of the town, which would give us what you think is in the best interest of the town, because we are not experts up here. And that's what it has always been. And that was what was expected. And because those expectations were not being met, that is where we came and we hit, I don't want to say a wall, I don't know what the best word is, but that is where we had the issues, because we were not getting the cooperation. It is important that we remember that, because what changed? That now all of a sudden you don't want to be an advisory body. Now we have new leadership and we're trying to move forward, that's fine. But that does need to be part of this, and we need to understand, because if we are going to move forward with something different, then the things that we have adopted need to be repealed. That's just how laws work. That's how ordinances work. And that is our job. We can do that, and that's fine. But we need to make sure that we acknowledge it, that we know what we've gone through, we remember that, and then we figure out how to best move forward and to avoid this with any of our town advisory bodies. And then also to make sure that a lot of these documents and so forth are easily accessible, because I couldn't find several of them after I had found them like years ago. So I think that's important too, because I think all of us in here try to do our due diligence. We do try to go back and look to see, hey, what happened? Because you know what? We do a lot. We do a lot of work. I know that the Green Infrastructure Committee has done a ton of work. And through that, things can get lost. And so it's important that we document those things as well. So I would like that to be included in anything that we have moving forward. I don't know if an MOU is the right instrument. And that's where I think Mr. Deloge will have to come in and talk to us about. But this does change the tone and tenor. And then at the same time, what happens if one of our other advisory bodies wants to go and do the same? I will also say one last thing is that there nowhere in our charter says that a 501c3 cannot be an advisory body.
Okay, so council, how shall we proceed? Clearly,
Mr.
we're-
Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
Mr. Galloway did want me to inform Mayor and Council that he only received this document as recently as yesterday. Neither him nor Mr. Deloach have had an opportunity to actually look at it and give it a thorough review so that they can provide the mayor and council guidance to include some of the comments that were offered by Vice Mayor Briner as it relates to Mr. Deloach's responsibility to the town as the town representative. He represents the town as the town
Yeah.
attorney. So I just wanted me to make that information aware, make you aware of that.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I think, all right, so there's still work to do. A lot of work has been done. Shall we revisit this at the May work session or at the summer work session, whenever we schedule it? We are out of time on this topic.
I was just going to offer.
You have a date, like a month and a number. July, and then a date, and then a number. No? Okay, that's what I'm looking for. License and registration. So, I mean, maybe we won't be ready in a month, and we decide to discuss this at at the summer work session, which is sometime in July.
So I don't have a strong opinion on either of those. I just want to know if we need to get something from the town attorney before we can move forward at all, or if
Sure.
we can try to take into account some of the comments that were given. But if we need to get something from the town attorney, then it seems that's the first order of business. And then depending on how long that takes, and I don't, in my suggestions at the end, I suggested involving both parties in that work. I don't know if the first pass necessarily has to have that, because this isn't I assume this is not trying to come up with final language. This is trying to ask some of the macro questions that come naturally to the town attorney that were raised tonight. So I don't know when we put it on the agenda. I'd be a little surprised at this point if it's done by next work session.
Okay, I
Since-
already wrote down July work session.
Yeah, since it seems to be complicated enough.
We will consider it then at the earliest. Thank you. Okay, on to item 8, Policy Committee updates. This is the draft of the, how should we say, rules that we would propose govern elected officials, meaning the 7 of us's use of town resources for community events. Who would like to lead this one off? And we also agreed to a 25-minute limit. Do you want to start? Does someone else from the policy committee want to start?
I mean, I can by saying it's kind of out of the policy committee's hands at this point.
Yeah.
I wish that the draft that we had included the comments.
Oh,
Because I feel like those were pretty key, and we can see them in the Word doc, but they're not here in the packet.
Okay. I mean, I think we've come a long way, I will say. I think we probably need to figure out the number, if we're going to put a numerical cap on the number of events, if we're going to put a dollar cap on it, if we're only really talking about FY '27, there's probably a global cap that will be dictated by whatever's in the general government portion of the budget for '27. So while we don't have to write down a global cap, there will effectively be a global cap because there won't be any, because there'll be a limited amount of budget on that side. I think we've gone a long way to making these events, once approved by the town administrator, town events, just like the Easter egg hunt or dumpster day Saturday or the tree planting that's tomorrow at Cheese Park. And therefore, a lot of other, let's say, restrictions that apply to CPRC when they're doing the Easter egg hunt apply to the elected official or elected officials who are sponsoring, headlining, organizing, whatever you want to call it, their particular event. I'll stop there. Councilmember Wade, you have your hand up.
Yeah, just for clarification, you mentioned this is a document just for the upcoming year, or is this is a permanent document?
No, I mean, it would be a permanent policy. Thank you for the clarification. I think it's fine to outline, let's say, a per-event limit. Like, under no circumstances would an elected official be able to sponsor a town event that incurred more than X dollars of town resources. I was simply saying that the effective global cap on this will be determined. You don't have to put it in here, because it will be dictated by that line item in the general government budget for that fiscal year. Go ahead.
Yeah, just to follow up, I know, thank you, Mayor and Council, in that last town meeting, we passed to move forward with my particular event. I did not know prior to that day the cost associated with 4 individuals. I think it was $1,600 for 4 individuals to town. That's something that personally for me, who pride myself on being fiscally conservative, that would not be acceptable, especially during the times that we are in now. So I did discuss with the town administrator that it would definitely have to be something that is at minimum half of that. I know that, not sure who did, but put it under the current document as $2,000 aggregate. I suggest the aggregate for the entire year for up to 3 events. Mentioning 3 events because you could partner, say, with the police department or any other organization. So I don't think that really it's not more important than the number of events, it's the amount of money that's associated with that. So I would prefer to look at the number between $800 to $1,000 per individual for the entire. Again, I know it said calendar year, but I looked at it more as the fiscal year because we work on the fiscal budget as well. So it would be something proposing 8 up to 3 events, partnering with any town entity for a total of $800 to $1,000 for the fiscal year for that. So let's start with the monetary aspect and number of events for that. Again, I don't think it's the number of events, is more as the level of money that's associated with that, because an event might cost $50 or $100 to do. Not sure of that. I'm just throwing it out there, but if it benefits us, has a purpose, let it happen, versus the monetary expense associated with that for the fiscal year.
You're saying 800 to 1,000 per elected official, or for an elected official?
Right, with the aggregate of that, meaning up to 3 events.
Got it.
If we do need to do a amendment to the vote of I think we should. For my event that was passed, it was voted unanimously as for $1,600. And I told Mr. Galloway that is not, I don't feel even halfway comfortable with doing that for my particular event. So number one, Mayor, should we have an amendment to that vote for that? That is not at the price point of $1,600.
So you're suggesting for
I mean,
I'm talking about 2 different things. Again, you all passed to do my event because of the fact, which was, thank you again, suggested by Councilmember Fry, because my event's coming up in July. We don't know when this policy is going to be done. It was passed with a $1,600 budget. So that's one aspect that needs to be changed, because I don't plan on spending $1,600 of the town's money. That aspect, and then right now, currently, it mentions a total amount of $2,000 for the calendar year, but I suggested the fiscal year because we work on the fiscal aspect. My suggestion is to make it between $800 to $1,000 for the entire fiscal year for each person.
Okay. All right, thank you. Vice Mayor Briner.
Just a quick answer to the first part, and thank you for your fiscal awareness and responsibility. I really appreciate that. I don't think the motion specified a dollar amount, so I don't think there's a need to do an amendment. I think it was phrased to be at the discretion of the town administrator, so I think we're okay there.
Well, to respond to that, we did, because I distinctly asked the town administrator the amount. He literally told us it would cost $1,600.
Okay.
I just wanted I want it on record to make sure
Yeah, no, I
my
appreciate that.
residents in the town of Cheverly as a whole, that I'm not spending $1,600 of our money that
Okay.
everyone's struggling to do. So
I
that
understand.
was mentioned among the vote there. So I prefer to have that
All right.
documented.
Why don't we check with the town administrator when he gets back? And if we did pass 1,600, we'll pass a new motion on May 14th.
Okay.
Will that work?
That's fine with me, yeah.
Okay, Mr. Tanzi, you're up.
Two points. First, I'll say there were 3 sections that were deleted that I think are important and need to be included in some way. Under Section 5, election rules, there had been a paragraph or 2 that said, "Town resources may not be used for elected official-initiated events during the period of 90 days before an election in which the official is a candidate. If an elected official becomes a candidate for another elected office, the same restrictions apply." And then
Yeah.
under 6,
Isn't that on page 14?
that's, sorry,
Isn't that on the top of page 14, the 90-day rule,
sorry,
including county
I'm
and
looking
federal?
at what I printed out because I printed out the comments, so now I'm flipping between what is here.
I think right before 6, promotion of events, there's a paragraph C that still talks about the 90-day rule.
Okay. Okay. If an elected,
Okay.
yeah, so,
You want it back in?
oh, I'm not saying it has to be those exact placement or words, but I think
Okay.
this is a slightly different,
But you would like a cooling off period?
well, yes, though really I wanted to discuss it. It's just, it was deleted and without discussion.
Oh, you wanted, okay.
I think that there is a real question there because we have elections every 2 years, right? So if we say 90-day period, that means there are no more spring events, which might, or at least not annual spring events. So that I think is worth discussing. And maybe this is just moved and I just looked at the fact that it was deleted. But under 6, they had materials must clearly state that the event is hosted by council member name or mayor name and not an official, well, I understand why that's gone. Official town logos may not be used, campaign logo, slogans, or imagery may not appear on promotional materials. Is that still?
No, I mean, that would no longer apply because the event is an official town event.
Okay. So I can have a campaign event paid for by the town right before the
it's not a-
election?
No, you can't. Delane is not going to approve your campaign event as an elected official-sponsored community engagement event. Once he approves your proposal as an official, elected official community engagement event, it becomes a town event, just like the Easter egg hunt.
So your point is that if Delane or whoever is town administrator approves it, they'll have enough information about all posters I'm going to use, all handouts I'm going to use, all speeches I'm going to give, that they can determine if this is a political event versus a community event?
I mean, yes, conversely, yes. I mean, the town then begins advertising the event as an official event. I mean, I'm not sure how much control the town administrator really has over what Kerry was doing at the Easter egg hunt. Who knows where that bunny's been? You know what I'm saying? Like, the expectation is that he has an agreement with CPRC.
But they're not running for anything.
Correct, they're not running for anything, but
Yeah.
they're using town resources to execute a community event without adult supervision.
I know, I'm just saying that the ethical question I hold most dearly is that we are not giving further incumbent advantage to being an incumbent.
I agree with you. That was one of the justifications for the 90-day cooling off period.
Yeah, so that's, I think that's there, and also the ethics, and again, maybe this moved, I'm just looking at the comments, that there had been a statement about ethics committee may provide advisory opinions, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to encourage community events. Cheverly has a lot of them. A lot of them are enabled by, our very substantial volunteer population. So I think my second point will help inform the first. I personally don't think there should be a dollar amount in this. I think we are then binding ourselves to perpetual fiscal allocation.
Okay.
And I prefer some language that says this is about guiding what we can do depending on what's in the fiscal budget for the line item we create for this or that we declare that this comes from, right? And I'm pretty open actually to how that could be interpreted. That could be a bucket that people pull from, with a cap being 1/7 of it or whatever, fraction you want. But the last time we convened, we talked about a very real budget deficit. And so I don't like the idea that we are going to permanently state that this is going to be there no matter the financial reality.
And to your point, we have a formula for council member, for elected official travel and conferences, and it doesn't say it has to be 20,000. That's a budget decision.
Yeah.
What it says is the percentages.
Exactly. So I'm saying that
there might-
this should be more of that kind of breakdown, and then we can decide on any given year, hey, do we need to lean more on volunteers, or do we have
Yeah.
the resources?
We just cut yeah, go ahead.
Thanks. Two things. One of the impeti for this policy was about providing some cover for the town administrator, right? The town administrator, whoever is in that position, is in a very difficult position because they have 7 bosses. And what we want to make sure is that they're not making judgment calls that would require them to say no to their boss in a way that might negatively impact them. So as much as possible, codifying these kind of gray area decisions so that a town administrator is not thinking, well, this isn't really right, but if I say no to this person, that might negatively impact me. So just trying to find those gray areas and clarifying them to avoid that. My second point is related to something Councilmember Tansey said, which is about the definition of a town event. Because I do think there's a difference between what we're talking about and, say, the CPRC Spring Festival. And I feel like if I, as Ward 3 council member, want to do an event to serve the community, and it is not in my ward, and it is serving a purpose that is very similar to other events like Cheverly Day, and it is of a size and scope that it requires town support, the only reason to say that that is a Ward 3 event is to highlight myself as council member of Ward 3, right? Because otherwise, it's town-supported, it's not happening in Ward 3, it's not specific to Ward 3, it's similar to other events that are not ward-specific. So I just want to make sure that we have clarity around town event, because I feel like that, I'm still unclear on what the definition is of town event, I guess.
Okay, I'll just quickly answer that. A town event is whatever the town like, everything the town administrator does and publishes is a town event. Everything that I get an email about and a text message about is a town event. The town administrator has put his imprimatur on it, whether it's the tree planting tomorrow or whatever. I mean, every event that the government, I don't know what other word to use, does is an official town event. And therefore has all the insurance coverage and whatnot. I think the question here is, well, Mr. Galloway makes the decisions about whether we're going to have a tree planting on Friday in Cheese Park and whether the town can afford it, because he's got visibility on all that. What to your point, writing it down is important because these events that we're talking about are not generated by the town administrator, and he would not necessarily be in a position to say no to it like he would to the tree planting in Cheese Park. Okay, I think we're with John, and then we're going to I think we're going to stop there and go to the public because we're almost out of time. John?
So I think what we did for Councilmember Wade last month was deliberative. We thought about his event because he had thought about his event as a town event for engagement with the public, not just his ward, for the public and for Cheverly as a whole. This document is restrictive for all of us because it identifies what we have to do within a set of restrictions as town events. We can only spend a certain amount of money. We can only do it within a certain number over the course of a year. If we, as council members, within our certain skill set, community engagement, meeting with our ward residents, as I do with my triangle talks, or whatever, whether a Ward 2 block party, or whether David wants to engage with Ward 4 through their civic association, or if, the vice mayor wants to do it with, her residents and however she chooses to do that, or if Charlie wants to do it with a ward walk through the apartments. They bring it to the mayor and council within a specific set of time, and we don't need this document because we sit with this body and we deliberate and we bring it to the town administrator, and we don't need to we set a budget for each specific event, and we don't have to say, well, how many events have you had this year? We can do it without this document. I think that's a way to do it.
No, thank you for that. I hadn't thought about it that way. All right, is there any public input on this? We're going to call this a working draft as well for the policy.
Mayor?
Okay. Yes, sir.
Mayor? I just want to keep it on the record that our ward walks are not, does not cost any money for us to do a ward walk. It's strictly through invitation and collaborative through the town with the ongoing issues with Cheverly Station Apartments. I just want that to go on record.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. Right, but true, and if you as an elected official wanted to, under this policy, have a Councilmember Garces event in your ward, you could, and you could receive town support for the event. But yes, the ward walks do not cost anything. That's a good point. Okay. Anything else from the council before we go to the public? Okay.
Just to answer Councilman Tansey, if you look at number 4, it covers the campaign aspect, the political aspect of things there. I don't believe that was taken out, right? Event guidelines. It talks about political endorsements, candidate promotion activities, including to support a post candidate and ballot measure. Restriction applies to all candidates in political campaigns. You see that there?
Yeah, events supported by the town resources should follow these guidelines. So, I mean, again, to David's point, if you colored outside the lines, you would be opening yourself up to being sanctioned.
Right. But it said that was removed.
I think.
That wasn't removed from there. And one other follow-up about the 90 days. Again, I'll go on record again. We are council members for not less than 3 months out of the year. We still got to do our job 90 days prior to election. If you don't, you might get elected out of it. And also, if we're talking about putting political information, we do on our news, and I looked it up, on our newsletters, we have QR codes. I saw one right before everyone's election. The QR code goes to individual websites. It goes talk about donating political faces and everything. This is on the official town newsletter and website. So that QR code, your website is on it. I'm looking at it right here. So that's political in itself, and that happens every month, and it clearly happened right before our most recent election that we had. I had mine on there as well, so I don't have a problem with it. But if we're going to have that, That should be across the board. And we have been doing that, so across the board. And I don't think anyone's complained about it at all, because it takes you to your website. If I'm a new person in town, hey, you're my Ward 6 representative, and, or whatever ward it is, and I don't know that much about it, I can go to your website, see what your issues are, see what you stand for, and I can get more informed and see what you do, what you've done in the community, whether your pictures, so on and so on. I think our residents are smart enough to know the difference between the two regarding that, going forward with that. But again, we're elected officials for our entire time. So if it is a situation, if we come to a meeting here or host anything else here, we're still on as far as being a elected official, even that's 90 days or less. So the same thing would apply to being having an event as well.
Okay, are you sure it's more important than hearing from the public? I mean, just take a second and think. No? You want to come in after?
Sure, we'll see if we have time now.
All right. Does anyone on the public wish to speak on the working draft?
Okay, this is interesting. Okay. Sean Patrick, Ward 2. Okay, guidelines matter. Maybe it's a question of fine-tuning the guidelines, but they do matter, and they apply also to you, but also to the administrator who will make the final decision, or a clarity for the town attorney who will say, oh, this is right, this is wrong. So guidelines do matter, so throwing out the baby with the bathwater doesn't make sense. But fine-tuning it just right, well, good luck, but it's necessary to start the process. Or you literally can do whatever you want if you have no guidelines. Or I'll decide on the spot, oh, this applies, or this doesn't apply to me because I feel like it should be what I want. Ego. So try to remove that from the difficulty. Okay, so good luck, and the administrator will make a decision. Well, he's not an elected official, so he has to act on the guidelines and not personal relations or friendships or whatever, but a sort of neutral guideline based on the guidelines, and then make the right decision. Or he'll say, oh, I favor her, I favor him. Oh, I don't like her, but I'll give her a few just to keep her happy or him happy. Well, then there's the ego. So it affects then, but you're working for the town. But yes, I understand it's 360, but minus the holidays. It's not just 3 months a year. Okay, fair enough. So 1,600, 800, okay. Thank you for coming down. I thought it was going to be $1,000 per event, so 3,000. But we'll define, so we don't say, oh, I'll decide this, I'll decide that. So as long as what is fair and just, right? No ego, what is fair and just for everyone. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for that. Are there other members of the public who would like to come in on this working draft of the,
Green light. Leila Riazi, Ward 1. Councilmember LeGlowick, what you brought forward, I've been thinking about it, and I don't have fully formed thought, but what is the challenge for town staff is to be put in the position where town staff needs to make decisions about what is political, what isn't political, these sorts of things. What you brought forward takes that out of that. And it makes it for our mayor and council to own. And I think there's benefit to that. What unfortunately does happen, that I think Sean brought up, is can mayor and council play nice with each other, or does it become a personality game? Does it become a popularity game? And I'd like to say it doesn't, but I mean, we've all seen evidence that it does. So I encourage mayor and council just to maybe think through that. Think once again, are we trying to, this came about because a wrong was done to Councilmember Wade and to the community in the way his event was handled. And that led to the need to try to legislate being good council members and kind with each other. So if there is a way to step this back rather than trying to, you're not going to get everything in here. It's not going to be possible. just to think that through. And thank you, Councilmember LeGlowick, for bringing forward that possibility.
Thank you for that. Are there any other members of the public? I think Ms. Salo will be our last contestant on this topic.
Sheila Salo, Ward 2, and this is really naive statement, but I think I heard that there was a question about how can you distinguish a Ward 3, let us say, event from a town event. And all you have to say is this is a town event organized by our wonderful Ward 3. That seems like a plan. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. Mr. Tanzi?
Just want to make a distinction. I think the QR codes is a great example of something we all have available to us equally, but I think this was Nicole's point earlier, that at some point, if we don't put a blackout, then Delane is put into a position where he has to say, which of these do I approve? I just got 7 requests for the last few weeks before the election. So everyone wants one because it's right before an election. So which ones do I approve, right? And is it first to submit? Does that mean I could submit one today for next June, next end of April, right? Then that also seems like a weird reality to have created. So that's why I think the blackout date, you can still have all the events you want, just don't spend any, taxpayer dollars on it.
All right, thank you for that. So, council, go ahead. You have the last word, and then we're going to figure out what to do next.
I just wanted to say, if any of our stuff is going to any of our campaign stuff, it should not. So we should be making sure, and if it does, we should let the community know that it has been there. It shouldn't have been there. We're making sure now at this point that it's not going to be, because when you know better, you do better, right? So if that is not something we're supposed to be actively putting on those things. So I don't know if that's something that we want to put on our ethics committee, just kind of take a look at the stuff that we're putting on our, out on the newsletters or wherever the other things may go. But I think that's something that's pretty clear that we're not supposed to be doing, is the campaign stuff and our official stuff are not supposed to be mixed or mingled.
Yeah, and I think right now, the only official communications that we use are the newsletter. So you all have 18 words in the newsletter, and I have 2 or 3 pages to be careful about. And, but it's useful it's a good reminder to be careful about those, about what you are saying in that, because it is taxpayer-funded communication. Okay, so I think we are not close to adopting this. I don't know that I want to use May work session time on it. So shall we say the July work session, we will consider coming back to it? Okay, I'm going to write that down. We can certainly change our mind. There's no commitment there, but we are not putting it on the May 14th agenda. You have a thought?
I have a question. What do you mean by coming back to it? Are we meant to continue to comment on it until then? Are we thinking about Councilmember LeGlowick's idea? What does that look like?
I mean, that's a great question. So rather than bringing the same document back, would you all like to take another crack at the online version? Would you like to, what would you like, do you know what you would like to do, or shall we have that conversation in July?
Maybe we can have that in July, because we'll know what the budget is too.
All right.
Just to be
So we will come back to the July work session with a fresh eyes on the question. Yes, as an addendum on we will make sure by May 14th we have answered the mail on the $1,600 question. Okay, moving on to easier topics. such as the Prologis $10,000. Hold on one second. Okay, so where we are here, council, is that we owe an answer to the Prologis question from 2023. The bluff is that we signed an agreement with Prologis about 3.5 years ago-ish, by which they would provide $10,000 to the town, and the town would spend it on a specific, on a purpose, on an environmental project or purpose recommended to the town and mayor by the GIC. That's what the bluff of the language in the agreement says. A few months later, the GIC provided a recommendation that the money should be used towards the purchase of 6 lots on Paper Wayne Street or south of Arbor Street. No one ever thought that $10,000 would buy 6 lots. It was to go towards the eventual goal of public ownership of the 6 lots. So, council, we need to answer the mail with Prologis as to what happened with the $10,000. What did you all spend it on? We have 2 options as I see them, and it's just you don't all have to agree with me. One option is to say we are in the process of trying to use the money to buy 2 specific lots, and that's what the money will be used for, period. Thank you for your interest in this matter. The other option would be to ask GIC to go back to the drawing board to finally answer their recommendation and say, thank you for the idea. We think the 10,000 should be spent on something else. Do you have 1 or 2 or 3 other ideas for other environmental project or purpose that we could use it for? My only color, so that's how I see the question. I think we need to answer the question in the next few weeks. It seems to me option A is the easier one, since we are indeed proceeding down that road, but I open it up to you for discussion, and then we'll see if there's public input. Is anyone on the council? Mr. Tanzi.
Thank you. So my reading of the language was a little bit more, or at least allowed for what you called option 2, because I did engage with the community in the Old Fourth Ward on the other side of Route 50, which is closest to Prologis, and ask them what type of green initiatives they would like to spend money on, if that was possible. 3 ideas came up. One was that the hiking trail in Boyd Park is in poor shape, so improving that so that more people can make use of it. They used the word accessible, though they did not mean, I don't think, exactly ADA accessible, but that it is bumpy enough that someone said they cannot make it through safely. Someone raised the possibility of using the money to prepare the site for a prospective Cheverly sign as you enter the Old Fourth Ward, since they understood that the site itself needed some tending to before it would be usable. And then finally, people said that some of the trees and greenery are overgrown in Boyd Park to the point that it is restricting available parking. And since parking is a top concern in Boyd Park, they thought that it could be used to address that matter to the extent that is possible. So I wanted to put those forward as distinct ideas I heard from residents who are near the Prologis building, and how they think they could benefit from green spending.
All right, thank you for that. Anyone else on council? Vice Mayor.
Yes, thank you. Similarly to Councilmember Tanzi, my preference would be to choose a use of this money that addresses issues in the Old Fourth Ward, since they are by far the most impacted by the Prologis development. And my understanding was that funds that come from Prologis are meant to ameliorate or to mediate those effects that are happening to the Old Fourth Ward, whether those funds are coming directly from Prologis or through a more kind of windy path. The other note I want to make is a recommendation to use the $10,000 towards something else that costs a lot more than $10,000 is a recommendation for more than $10,000. And so I feel like that's tricky because that's a recommendation for the town to spend a lot of money, not just the money that is sort of being provided.
Okay. I mean, I will say, just on your first point, that sounds fine, but that's not what it says in the agreement, right? I mean, I'm fine spending it in the Old Fourth Ward. There's certainly ample work we could spend many, many dollars there, but there's nothing in writing that we signed, the town signed, that said the money should go to those most impacted or who live most closest to the building.
I guess to answer that, my hope would be that the Green Infrastructure Committee would take that under strong consideration in making their recommendation that the Old Fourth Ward is the most severely impacted by this, and that perhaps in considering whatever recommendation that they would prioritize the Old Fourth Ward.
All right, other council comments? Mr. LeGloheck.
So I'm just looking over the information that was also given to us tonight, and so I would be interested to hear what Mr. Smith has to say too. And so sort of picking up on what the vice mayor said, so while we presumably could use some additional funds, because, so we've now had this money since presumably 2023, and we would expend some additional funds at some point down the road. And so I'm assuming, I'm making the assumption that this map here indicates that these properties had been identified by both the Green Infrastructure Committee and.
Yeah, that's what they're.
Right.
That's what this
And
is.
When
Right.
we heard from a great number of the community last month that there are some properties in addition to the ones that we identified last month that adjoin the ones that we have identified for purchase, that we could certainly think about trying to acquire with this money as well.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, let's go to the public and see if there is any public input on how the town should answer the Prologis $10,000 question.
Sheila Tello, Ward 2. I'm not going to address that directly. I'm going to address the map, because I made the map. The map shows the whole range of the properties that run along the northern part of Route 50. And it includes, from west to east, property that belongs to the town of Cheverly. And then we come to the properties outlined in red are the ones that belong to the town of Cheverly. Then we come to the properties that are privately owned. And you can see that the two lots that come in, there's 6 lots that come into sets of 2, okay? So the 2 lots that now belong to Mr. Harpler are adjacent to the property that is called Magruder Spring Park. That is owned by the town of Cheverly. And then we have 2 other two other private properties that are similar to that of Mr. Harkler. All of the properties that are, I believe, in green are properties that are owned by the Prince George's County. Now, back in 2017, the town put in a letter of intent to the county saying that they would be interested in obtaining these properties as surplus. Nothing came of that. Mr. Galloway attempted to find out, and I discovered that whatever letter had been sent had disappeared. Subsequently, in 2023, the county changed the way it deals with surplus real estate. And now it's in the hands of the RDA. So if you wanted to put in a letter of intent, that would be, sorry.
Go ahead, take another 20 seconds.
Okay, that would be the agency to contact. Anyway, just if you take a look at the map, you'll see all of the properties that should be considered together as properties that we would want to protect for their green properties. So I leave you with that, and that's something that you should be thinking of. That's the background of how you should be thinking about this $10,000. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Is there other public input on how to answer the $10,000 question?
Okay. Sean Patrick, Ward 2. Well, maybe the 10,000, maybe we're talking about the town not going crazy spending only the non-restricted funds to making a purchase from the county. But let's not make a deal, but not make a deal to, take advantage of the town at the same time in the name of finding green space. And of course, making sure the 2,000, the nice little projects too are funded. So maybe it's more than just $10,000. And maybe Boyd Park should have been, the problem, is it on Cheverly, is it property that should have been taken care of that's on town of Cheverly? So the work department should have dealt with the problem first. So maybe it's not a question, just a private company had to say, please, can you deal with the brush? It's causing a potential traffic errors or pedestrian problems. Can the town of Cheverly, maybe not, if Boyd Park is part of that area, is part of Cheverly, maybe it's over brush that needs to be dealt with by the work department. So it's already budgeted, I think, as part of the work department budget. So number 3, I guess, the 10,000, maybe a down payment for purchases of property for green reasons, or maybe hydroponic, maybe we can light industry, but mostly green space, obviously, but the idea of hydroponics. It's an idea, but mostly green space. Obviously, people want green space, but more than $10,000. And the work department gets the problem that this company has brought up that needs to be dealt with near Boyd Park. So I'm here to say, wake up, here I am. You got some work to do. Thank you for your time.
I'll try to be brief. Julia Mosley, Ward 2. As you look at that map, something I didn't realize until some of the research was that even if you acquire Mr. Horkler's 2 lots, that still does not prevent development of the rest. And I think each case should be looked at carefully. For example, the access to the Boyd Park playground, the mayor and council, correctly in my mind, far exceeded their budget this year to make that work correctly. You're to be commended for that. I think each park, each area, you're to be commended for the Kilmer Street Park and Arboretum. There's an old adage that God's not making any more land. I think right now, this is just my opinion, not an official opinion of the GIC, is that those lots along Route 50, we are in dire need to protect them. I thought that the purchase of Mr. Horkler's 2 lots would make it far more difficult to develop. I was horrified to find out that's not the case. So I'm just asking you to keep that in mind when you're weighing what you're going to do. And also, I guess, the GIC, this was before my tenure in GIC, was never, our recommendation, there was never a response for years. We were never, the town never responded to us. So I guess if at some point the mayor and council are going to ask for different recommendations, I guess we would need to know what the town is doing first with Mr. Horkler's lots before we could even begin to think of a different recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Hi, Dan Smith, Ward 1. So first of all, thanks for bringing this up. Second, I was never notified whatsoever that this was occurring. And third, it's very clear that there is a substantial factual record behind all of this, which many of you know nothing about. And I apologize if that's my fault. However, I would like to refer to one thing. When the green infrastructure process, and I'm happy to come back at another time. I think I'm very uncomfortable being on the clock for this kind of a discussion, and I think that's very unfair and unnecessary. And I would love to go into detail further, provide background information so that you can review that, and then we could discuss it further. But just a couple of highlights. On April 28th, 2024, I provided to all the council and to Mr. Galloway a document reviewing the whole history of the Prologis destruction of 4 acres of floodplain trees needlessly. They did that. The impacts of that are substantial. They go far beyond Ward 4. Far beyond Ward 4. Thank you. Yesterday was Earth Day. The settlement included substantial funds that went distributed to 4 different parties. One of the first offers of funds was to the town of Cheverly for $76,000 to put a green roof on this building. One of the problems with the Prologis development was that they came in so late in the process to get community input. We could not weigh in about some of the things we thought should have been incorporated, like a green roof, solar panels. This is in the floodplain that's under high stress for Lower Beaver Dam watershed. We have chronic flooding that shuts down Route 50 because of the lack of infiltration that's caused by a system of planning and development that is structurally flawed. It is racist. It has caused problems here and in these communities that have been identified since 2020 by the Prince George's County Environmental Justice Commission. that specifically identified this area. And yet, this has not been addressed by our county council in a meaningful way. It's not been addressed by the park and planning. And so it is on the incumbent on some of the citizens to use the avenues open to us to speak up for the people and the residents. So we did that. So I'm saying the town rejected $76,000 for a green roof, saying, sorry, this is 3.5 years ago. This building design is too far along. We've already got some structural engineering done. We would have to spend, we'd have to go back to the drawing board. It would delay this building to do that. So that $76,000 is at the Chesapeake Bay Trust. They have a grant out right now looking for a green roof opportunity for a demonstration project in a floodplain. And then just, I'm not gonna go on forever, but just one thing. Ward 4, Joe's Movement Emporium got a substantial amount of money, and we began there a sustainable tree planting program that is flourishing to this day. The idea is, let's not take this money and do one-off tree plantings and be done with it. Let's create programs that will go on and will live and will have impacts. One of these is that program. Now, I could, next time I'll come back and I'll bring you the documentation of how many of those trees and how much money that value is to the town of Cheverly, including to Boyd Park, including to street trees in Ward 4, including to street trees throughout Cheverly, including in Ward 1, the other side of the parkway. And we had a thoughtful working relationship with the Public Works Department saying some of the next grants that this money helped enable them to get, coming from the state 5 million urban tree planting project that came out of the Climate Change Action Plan that Ted Rapinski got through, former resident of Cheverly. Some of those funds went to a grant program that were used in Cheverly. But because it was means tested, it had to be in social impact areas. And I really enjoy that there's some council members that just cannot make eye contact. And you're fine to do your other business, that's fine. But it's noticed. And it hurts.
How I absorb information, sir, may not be the way that you do.
Okay.
But I am listening to you.
Thank you. Thank you. I understand. I'm a guy who also sometimes just is constantly taking notes. It's a way to reinforce it in my brain. So I apologize for overstepping that. But let me just say that on the on these tree planting things, so the state program has some areas of Cheverly that don't qualify because we're not economically impacted as we are in some other areas. So we said to the town, we can plant your trees in those areas, and then we have the money in the budget can go to the other areas, so we have more lifting up the whole thing. So that was done. So I will just conclude by saying, when this discussion in the litigation came to a discussion about how much money and what should it go for, the very first thing I asked for, and I can submit this for the record, is a document from Mr. Tom Howler, the attorney for Pro Lodges that many of you know well, March 31st, 2021. Mr. Howler, what are the commitments that Prologis has made and is making to the town of Cheverly? Because we want to be clear. None of this additional settlement should be taken away from the rightful community benefits that have been discussed and negotiated. This is not to raid that money. We're talking about additional funds. The list, and I'll just real quick. Prologis has agreed to design and install traffic calming devices in the streets off Old Fourth Ward. Have agreed to fund the installation of signage identifying the Old Fourth Ward community. They agreed to install enhanced plantings on Lot 12 Lot 8. There's more on this, but those are the highlights. They're designing and installing a traffic signal at Sheriff Road and Claybrook Road. They performed an operational analysis of traffic along Columbia Park Road that the town requested. They're proposing to add an additional lane northbound over US 50 to reduce the traffic delays. This was the most effective improvement identified by the operational analysis, quote unquote. That's from Mr. Haller. They're studying the possibility of adding a southbound through lane on Columbia Park Road at the metro entrance. This was also recommended by the operational analysis, but has less benefit than the extra lane over the bridge. Installation will depend on cost. Goes on. They agreed to donate 1.3 acre parcel out Lot 8 at the town. That's coming, but I would urge you to be careful about this condition of the stream and the eroding bank on Boyd Park before they donate that property they own to us. And they've agreed to install all of the EV infrastructure in the parking lot for the Amazon vans to be all electric once that occurs with the fleet, which still we're waiting on. They're working with the town to encourage Metro to not reduce service to the Cheverly Metro. They've instituted a community workforce initiative. So what I'm wondering is, why are we here talking about this $10,000 and we're not talking about the unfulfilled commitments by a multi-million-dollar corporation in our backyard? And these are past commitments. So I guess I would just say in what I put in my letter I wanted to clear up, try to remove myself from the controversy between GIC and the town. I wanted to remove that because when the litigation occurred, when it was clear that I could not abide the recommendation of the GIC and the town to go along and allow and not speak up against this, I withdrew from the Green Infrastructure Committee. And I did that. So I wanted to go on the record and show how that occurred. And it was years later, then I went back on. But so the history was in this document, and just one of the things I said was, and it was unfortunate that, I applaud the town for some additional things. So getting funding from Prologis to do the restroom renovations and there. It was unfortunate they went way over budget, as reported at the town meeting on the 13th of April 3 years ago, that they had a $1.5 million overrun for the signal light at Sheriff Road. But then they sort of took it. But I guess I would say, isn't it appropriate for large businesses that clearly impact this community, that to be good neighbors, there should be ongoing giving and relationships? What projects and to what extent are Amazon and other tenants of Prologis and the other properties, what degree do they have ongoing civic improvement, community impacts and projects? That would be appropriate to discuss.
All right, thank you. I think let's let Ms. Riazzi make the final public input on this topic, as we are out of time on it, and we will plot a path forward. Go ahead.
Thank you. Leila Riazzi, Ward 1. So Mr. Tanzi and I think Ms. Briner, Ms. Briner brought up rethinking how to spend this money. I have the same list up that Dan just shared. I had the privilege to be mayor and a little bit of the curse to be mayor when this happened. And everything that Dan listed were things that the town worked to make sure Prologis had in writing so that the town could hold Prologis to account. That responsibility continues with you. And I really ask for you to follow up on that. So a lot of what was brought up, both from the town and from the Fourth Ward Civic Association, was to directly address the impact on the old Fourth Ward. And there was a whole bunch of planting to help with screening, to help with air quality, to help with light, to help with noise. There are a whole bunch of improvements made. So if you're talking about where this $10,000 should go, I say, look at this map. The area that is in danger, the area that is suffering, is not Outlot B. Although people should be looking and seeing what has died in the meantime, what needs to be, redone in the meantime. But it is to save this green space, not because people want to go and hug trees, however lovely that is. It's because this green space is an essential buffer for sound, for air quality. The absorption within this vegetated area is incredibly important. When you look at the amount of diesel particulates our community is facing. And so this is that protection on this side. The Metro is the protection on the next side, and then the Pepco land leading over into the old Fourth Ward, and then Outlot B. So this $10,000 is a drop in the bucket, I understand that, but it was also acknowledging there has never been an effort as large as that at an Upper Marlboro saying, you shall not pass. And so it was absolutely to take this on and say, have this money go toward this. I am not speaking for the entire GIC, but if you come back and the voice that I'll have in this process, if you come back saying, tell us something else to do with the 10,000, will be, I want $10,000 to go to legal aid and research to be able to place this entire green space. That means the part owned by the state, the part owned by the county, the part owned by private lots, into a public trust to protect this green space.
Thank you for
So
that.
if you don't want it to be for the lots, that would be what I would ask, and I hope that we would bring forward. Thank you very much.
All right, council, we're back at the table to figure out how we will move forward to answer this three-year-old question. Mr. Wade.
Yeah, thank you for the information. Something I did not have before. Definitely would love to get a copy of that information, Mr. Smith. Just to piggyback on what he said about Joe's Emporium movement, I actually worked with them during the day, and Brooke, who's the director, actually mentioned about the trees as well, the grant for that. So thank you for mentioning that. Hope we can maximize that as well. But we definitely appreciate all the commitment and the things that you have done regarding this particular matter, and hope we come to a resolution regarding this pretty soon.
All right, council, I'm not hearing, well, let me frame it positively. What I am hearing is a desire to answer the GIC with a thank you. At long last, we are responding, and we would like you to consider the following alternative parameters for an alternative recommendation. Is that accurate?
I'll just add that I don't want to limit it to what I suggested. Those were ideas that came up, but there might be an idea I don't have, or that hasn't been expressed yet, but that could be a great idea. But I do believe that while I very much agree with the goal of protecting this trail and park, that this $10,000, I think, should benefit the Old Fourth Ward. And so I would like to provide that as a parameter. My reading of this language is, I'm not sure if condition is the right word, but to say that we would like to hear some other ideas so that we can deliberate amongst those recommendations.
Thank you. Councilmember Frye.
I would agree with that. I would ask that, first let me say, I think it's important that we acknowledge our intent in the things that we're doing, but it's also important to acknowledge the impact, because sometimes our intent and our impact are not the same. And through it all, I think we can all agree that what has happened here is that the old Fourth Ward has gotten the short end of the stick. Whether it's from not getting some of the things that they were promised, and for other things, because they continue to live with the repercussions of having this Amazon right there and the traffic and all the other good stuff. I would ask that the GIC, when they bring back the recommendations, it can definitely still include this as one of the recommendations, but to have a conversation with the folks in the old Fourth Ward, as the people who are impacted by it, while I know we have experts in the room who, with their experience, would like to advise what they think would be best, it's really important to hear from the people who've been impacted as to what they would like to see. And, you know, it's $10,000. I don't know if it will go far or it'll achieve the things that they want, but I think it would be helpful, too, that as we see these impacts on the Old Fourth Ward, that the GIC continue to, beyond this $10,000 issue, work with the Old Fourth Ward to continue to see improvements in ways that we can make sure that those things that are trying to continue to come into those industrial areas do not continue to create more harm for them. So that would be the only thing that I ask. I'm not saying to completely take this off the table, but that they're bring back a little bit more and that they have some robust conversations with the Old Fourth Ward.
Anyone else? All right, if you have wording ideas, send them to me, and I will answer the mail with the GIC, and we will hope that they are able to send us recommendations expeditiously. The last thing I'll say is, never liked Prologis, always thought it was a bad idea. That's why I voted against it. I don't get a lot of things right, but that's one of the consistently right things that I've gotten. At least once a year, I thank God Almighty that I voted no on welcoming them to our community. I will now go on to item 10, which is the Cheverly entrance sign at 64th Avenue. So this is at Columbia Park Road and 64th Avenue. This has been floated for a long time. I think, I'm not aware of any public opposition to the idea of having a sign near the intersection, generally speaking. It is in the capital plan for generally, I think we called it green space improvement and welcome signs last year. There is no money in the FY26 plan for it, but there is money in the 27 plan for it. I suspect that will need to be taken out given our last budget discussion. And so then the question becomes, one, technically, do you want to leave it in the CIP with no dollars assigned to it? That's okay. But I think, Councilmember Tanzi, and I'll turn to you, perhaps there are some creative ways that we can ask the town administrator to proceed outside of a budget appropriation. Go ahead.
I don't know that I have so many creative ways. I know we have some unspent money in the acquisition fund for fiscal year 26. I did bring this up at the last Ward 4 Civic Association meeting to gauge a sense of interest in it, and the general sense was that they would like it, though I will say I did not speak to the scale of the sign. I just said a sign, and the descriptions that were given by others were more like the more modest sign that is on the opposite side of the Old Fourth Ward when you go to Marblewood. So I would love to get a sense of what work would be needed, how that land would need to be prepared to be able to have this, since it is along the creek there. And if we could consider that as a separate item where we are preparing the site, even if we don't have the full funding for putting in a sign now. But I also want to make sure that people who know those particulars better than I do can say that that would be enduring work. There's no point doing it and then finding out that 5 years later that it's been undone because we didn't, complete it. So I want to make sure that that is feasible to split it up so that we can find, miscellaneous funds to move forward with that.
Was it generally understood that you were all talking about the land on the single-family home side of 64th and not on Boyd Park side?
I think the assumption has been the Boyd Park side.
Okay. All right.
Yes. So you
That's
would,
great.
you would
Okay.
see it more prominently when you're coming off of Route 50 rather than from the other side, because it would be on your right and facing, I assume, diagonally towards you. But we did not go into that level of
I understand. Okay, no, that's helpful, and that does make more sense to me. Council, any comments before we ask the public? Yeah, I'll just say, generally, I think this is a great idea, and I would love, at the end of this evening, to ask the town administrator to look into grants and so forth for design during FY '27. We're going to need a charrette or two. It gives me a chance to use charrette, and because there will be, it is going to be very important to have several community involvement sessions. Is there any public input on proceeding to try to get us closer this coming year to an entrance sign at 64?
Be in contact with Prologis. They made a commitment. Make them follow through on it. That's my, thank you. Leila
No,
Riazi,
thank
Ward
you.
1.
I'm writing that down. Thank you for that.
Okay, I guess more comment. Sean Patrick, Ward 2. Prologix, who are they? I mean, other than they're a corporation, whatever, and they decided, I'm going to clear cut this. It reminds me of someone, owner of the Redskins. He wanted to clear cut a space to the Potomac, and he did it. Oh, I'm sorry, I know it's illegal, but I'll step and walk back. As a commentary, I'm sorry.
On the sign.
Okay, a sign. Well, how about they pay for it? As a good neighbor policy. And maybe, is it miles? Hey, 10,000 is not enough. It's a nice down payment, but could you up it a little bit? Maybe. And maybe change, it's only for, roofs, whatever. Okay, sorry to say it like that. But maybe change the reason for the request for a little help for your neighbor, your local municipality. Maybe that kind of thing. Now, a commentary about what I heard Dan Smith, it's just more like carte blanche to the county, and maybe the town didn't fight enough and say, or.
We're going to limit the comments to the sign.
Yeah, okay, but it's public input, so I'm just going to say.
No, it's limited to the sign. That's how the agenda works.
Make sure the town gets reimbursed for like 50 grand instead of whatever. Oh, and don't fall asleep for any other reasons. Do what's right for the town. Residents, don't for yourself. Oh, I'm getting money, so I'll just keep the seat warm and not do my job. Okay, take it easy.
Thank you. All right, seeing no other public input on the sign, we are on to the Keller update. I understand that this evening this is a Mr. Brayman and a Miss Barnhart item. Go ahead.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council, Town of Cheverly. Ms. Barnhart is with us this evening. The Keller team decided not to attend this evening, but we did get an update from them earlier today, and they continue to be committed and working forward, and I'm going to let Ms. Barnhart give an overview. Ms. Barnhart?
Yes, good evening. As Mr. Freeman said, we met with Keller this morning, got an update on the project. So Keller is continuing to work on addressing the punch list items that the town and CPJ identified both inside and outside the building. Shields for Shields have been installed on 5 light fixtures that are located on the building facing the field area in the residents' homes. Regarding the grass stabilization at the top of the hill in front of Town Hall and along the driveway down to the Ely building, the sediment control inspector gave permission for the removal of the silt fence, but noted that there were areas that did not meet the requirements for final stabilization, which needed to be addressed. Keller has removed the silt fence and aerated the soil. Topsoil would be placed in the bare areas that have received high foot traffic. The areas will also then be hydroseeded. Following the hydroseeding, these areas have to be fenced in order to keep foot traffic off the areas while the grass germinates and grows. The fence that will be placed around this area is a plastic safety fence, very similar to the previous safety fence that was out there that was bright orange in color. However, the same type of fence is available in a green color, which we have requested that they use instead, and they have agreed to do that. There are 2 key areas of work that remain to be completed. This includes completing the installation of the equipment in the maintenance garage and the fix for the stormwater management structures and the associated grading for the fields. Both of these items are waiting for the design engineer to complete their part and send the information to Keller for the coordination with Cheverly and CPJ team, as well as with their subcontractors. Keller is expecting to receive this information by the end of this week and into the beginning of next week. That's currently the update of where they're at.
Thank you for that. What weeks or months is the green plastic fence coming back?
They're looking to have the topsoil brought in into the beginning of next week. They did not give us an exact date of when they're going to do the hydro seeding and then need to install the fence, but I would assume in the fairly near future.
Okay, and how long does that usually last? 60 days?
It depends on how long it takes to get the grass to grow and stabilize there. Keller will be having a personnel come by and hook up a sprinkler system to water it so that it helps encourage that grass to grow as quickly as possible. But it will depend on that.
Thank you for that. Mr. Brayman, anything to add?
No, not at this time, but we are going to cooperate with them on the watering because that's, I think, one of the issues. And the topsoil, I think, also is one of the issues why we didn't get the growth, or they didn't get the growth that they needed.
And certainly they're going to be using the town's water because the building's right there, right?
Yes.
How does the building handover look?
With respect to?
Well, I mean, turnover was supposed to be the 12th of May at last, 9th, 12th, 14th? I can't remember.
I believe at the last meeting, they indicated the end of May at this point.
Okay.
I believe they're still tracking with that, although Ms. Barnhart and I have discussed some potential permit issues that they may run into that may extend that time or may extend their projected time within that time. We're looking to see what we can do to assist, but we're not taking responsibility.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I appreciate you offering to spend your time to help them do what they should already have done.
We've been trying to do that all along.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Okay, well, I do want to say on a positive note, it's good that the parking lot can be used for T-ball and other activities. This building's parking lot, the public part, that I think helps alleviate a lot of it. Frankly, the area looks better. I mean, the fence is gone, so it looks more like a community center. And of course, I'm hugely grateful for the, what's the banishment of the red plastic fence. So that's all positive things that I just wanted to put out there. Council, any questions for Robin or Steve? All right, thank you for keeping at it.
All right, thank you, and thank you, Ms. Barnhart.
Thank you.
Okay, council, we are on to the town administrator's update. Acting Town Administrator Morris.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In the interest of time, I'll
just hit the highlights. Financial disclosures for 2025 are due to the Ethics Commission by May 15th. I believe Ms. Richards has already provided the Mayor and Council with the documentation. There's a public hearing on Cheverly Hill. It's scheduled for Thursday, May the 14th at 10 a.m. And the proposal includes the development of townhouses, multifamily units, commercial space, and a hotel. Mr. Galloway will give an update on the bike trail at the Maytown meeting as it relates to the draft and scope and cost estimates. Election polling, this is important considering the year. The Judith P. Hoyer building has been condemned, so those that were assigned to voters at Judith P. Hoyer have been assigned to Bladensburg Elementary School in the multipurpose room. Mayor and Council, Ms. Richards will be coordinating your council photos, and a photographer has been identified. And there's a series of events that are coming up this weekend, certainly the Arbor Day event, which is scheduled for tomorrow at 11 at Gas Park. Our Public Works Department will be overseeing that and assisting. We welcome anyone to come out that is interested in participating. There's also a large funeral event at St. Ambrose tomorrow beginning at 11 a.m. and extending into the afternoon with both the funeral and the repast. And on Saturday, the town is hosting the dumpster day, I'm assuming provided the weather cooperates. It's happening. Okay, I've been told it's happening. There you go. Likewise, the Ward 4 Civic Association has a community day event on Saturday from 12 to 2, and that's at Boyd Park. And a Shredding a Day event coming up on May the 2nd. And the rest of the details are in the report. Any questions?
Council, any questions for the town administrator, acting? No, thank you for that. Thank you for running down the Bladensburg Elementary question. Just to clarify then, everyone in town will be voting at Bladensburg, except for the folks that voted Spelman. You guys still vote at Spelman? Old Fourth Ward votes at Bladensburg. West Side votes at Bladensburg. Far West Side votes at Bladensburg on June 23rd, primary. What? Oh, unless you vote early, yes, but that is your election day primary sites. So that is important. We will push that information out to town residents. If there are no questions for the town administrator, going once, going twice, this is not a topic of public input. We are on to item 13, Councilmember Garces or Councilmember Fry. Mr. Garces, do you have an update on, go ahead, sir.
At this time, I really don't have a full update on everything that I've briefed you guys regarding Cheverly Station Apartments and the AC situation. But I do want to say that tomorrow there is a ward walk. And I would like to extend my invitation to everyone else in the respectful wards to come out and just walk Ward 5 and 6 and and get to meet the apartment complex management that oversees Ward 5 Cheverly Station Apartments and Ward 6 as well. The walk is at 5:15. We're meeting up at the visitors parking lot. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have.
5:15 tomorrow, the
Yes.
24th. Okay. Visitors parking lot. Thank you for that. Any questions for Councilmember Garces or Councilmember Fry? Okay, then we are on to item 14, town meeting agenda and future requests. Council for the 14th of May. Okay, sorry, backing up a step. Y'all have next Thursday off, so enjoy yourselves. We're back on May 7th for a tax hearing and a budget hearing, budget review session. That will be a few hours. Then on the 14th is our regular town meeting. We will have the budget ordinance introduction. We will do the third reader and adoption of the annexation ordinance, charter amendment resolution, I guess it is, charter amendment resolution. And then I think there was a bike trail update. possibly as part of the town administrator's report. I do not have anything else for the 14th, although those are two big items.
Is the 7th, is that 6:30 or 7:30?
I believe, Ms. Richards, the public hearing is advertised for 6:30? Yes. Yes. So the legally required why can't I think of the name of it? The constant yield tax hearing. Thank you, Mayor. The constant yield tax hearing is 6:30 on the 7th. Vice Mayor.
Two things that I have outstanding. One is whether we've rescheduled Verizon to come back as they were meant to. And the second, I have on here car meetups, but I don't know if that's an old agenda item or not.
I believe on the second item, I believe Chief Morris addressed that in his police report.
The deputy chief addressed it at the last meeting.
Yes. And I imagine it will still be a problem, so she likely will address it again in her report on the 14th, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I sent Mayor and Council some intelligence reports that we received from Prince George's County prior to last weekend. But yeah, they're going to continue to be a problem, and we will continue to work with Prince George's County and keep Mayor and Council informed so that we can keep the community informed of areas that they may need to avoid.
And on your first point, I just wrote down Verizon for the 14th, so let us check with Mr. Galloway and see if he can make that happen. I think there's room on the 14th, if he can make it happen. Anything else for the 14th or the 28th, which would be the work session? That will be the second reading of the budget ordinance, even though it's a work session, but I'm not tracking anything else at this time. We will have a June town meeting on the 11th, I think it is, and then we will, stop me if I'm wrong, or you disagree, cancel the June work session, and then we will have a work session at a time to be determined in July, and then, or just do the regular Thursday in July, depending on people's travel schedules, and then we can talk later about August. Again, heavily dependent on vacation schedules. Any disagreement with that? Or concerns? All right, I think that takes us to item 15, adjournment.
So move.
I got a motion from Councilmember Wade.
Second.
There's a second from the Vice Mayor to adjourn. Is there any further discussion from the council's Vice Mayor?
I just want to say happy birthday to Mr. William Shakespeare. He's 462, and he
Going
gets me
strong.
paid, so thank you. That's all.
462, all right. Thank you for that. Any other debate on the motion to adjourn? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? It passes 6-0. Have a good night.